This week on Bitching About Movies, a 2-for-1 special episode. Not only are we going to provide a juicy, spoiler-filled review of Solo, a Star Wars story, but we also have a topical episode discussing films starring 3 of Solo's stars, Alden Ehrenreich, Donald Glover, and Emilia Clarke. Also, sorry I'm late, everybody. My science teacher says my thesis needs to prove something, but I think listing all the dinosaurs proves there was a lot of dinosaurs.
I, Frank, am going to agree with you, Matthew. I can't argue that logic.
Yeah, no. If this is your first time listening to Bitching About Movies, welcome aboard. You've caught us on a topical episode, which is different from our much beloved WTWTWs. That is what to watch this week. We put those out every single Monday, and we sift through what is coming out in theaters that week, what's on your various streaming services, what you can maybe buy on Blu-ray or DVD. And then we walk you through just random reviews of whatever we've watched recently. This is not that. This is a little more focused.
Yeah, it is. We like to do 2 things here on the topical episode. 1, we revisit movies from our past to determine whether or not movies really deserve to be called classics, cult, or otherwise, or maybe they don't really hold up at all against better movies that seem to get less attention somehow.
Yeah, some of the topics we've done recently, so we did a big 420 special and came to the conclusion that Half-Baked is pretty fucking bad, even though it plays regularly on TV. People say they love it. There's a million memes out there from it, but it's really not that good of a movie. What else have we done recently?
We did video game adaptations again.
Oh, Jesus.
Because you wanted to do that.
That was a slog.
You had your Marvel Comic Universe rewatch throughout all of our episodes. And most recently, which just came out a week or so before this episode, was the Wes Anderson Part 2, where we finished up talking all current Wes Anderson movies, all 9.
And then we ranked all 9 of them. Frank gave a recommended viewing order for all of them, which is not in the same order that they came out. So go back and listen to that if you want our takes on Wes Anderson. But yeah, episodes like this, we like to just focus in on, maybe a genre or a series, a director. In today's episode's case, a series of stars, rising stars possibly. And 2, the other thing we like to do on this show is watch new shit. We like to go to the theater. We both have Movie Pass. We use it vigorously.
We should edit it out to theater subscription service.
Yeah.
We shouldn't give them credit.
Yeah. But yeah, so what's better? What's a better excuse of our podcast powers than reviewing a new Star Wars movie and maybe talking about some of the people that are in it, especially since the spotlight's on them. They got to replace people like Harrison Ford and Billy D. Williams.
Yeah, and we were under the suspicion that a lot of our podcast brethren. Does that mean just males?
No, brothers. I mean, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
We need to work on a new phrase in 2018. Anyway, but we thought most podcasts like ours would just, rank Star Wars movies. Use this as a chance to update their Star Wars list, which your boy from Comedy Bang Bang, Scott Aukerman, did one of my all-time favorite tweets. He listed all the Star Wars movies chronologically with the date they were released, the year they were released, next to them, and people still flipped out. And they're like, and then there was just trolling within the comments where someone was like, well, what do you think about Solo? And someone's like, I think it's the latest Star Wars movie. and someone even asked Scott Aukerman directly, they were like, really? Phantom Menace 4th? What made you think that? He's like, well, I was thinking it was Return of the Jedi. Then I was like, no, that can't be true. It's so good.
I don't even use Twitter, but I will go on Twitter to find that.
I've been defending Twitter as the best form of social media lately because just my thing is there's professional comedians on there, so they're funnier than my friends.
Yeah. So do we have a Twitter account? Are you on that?
We do. At Bitching Movies is usually me. So yeah.
Yeah, he does all that.
Yeah, I argued with a baseball podcast about they were the host of this baseball podcast that I listened to said Will Ferrell's movies are him as a movie comedic actor is superior to Bill Murray, and his main reason was that Bill Murray always relied on ensembles. And I was like, whoa, have you seen Old School?
Yeah.
Have you also noticed that he's played off John C. Reilly in 2 of his best movies?
Yeah. That doesn't make any goddamn sense.
So sometimes I like to throw my weight around, or the way to think of. Anyway, back to the topic at hand.
So we're going to talk about some movies that we watched this week, ones that we have seen before, ones that we haven't seen before, and it's all going to lead up up to our review of Solo. At the very end of this episode, it will be filled with spoilers. We're not going to hold back. If you are a dedicated Star Wars fan, you've probably seen it by now.
Spoiler alert, he dies.
Easy joke. Let's talk about Alden Ehrenreich, who is not someone that I had a lot of experience with, honestly. Probably no experience with. So when they cast him as Han Solo, I was like, okay, that's a guy that can maybe do a thing in a movie.
Yeah, you could say, are they just going with the unknown? It seemed to work out for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's been tried. I'm okay with the unknown if there's like a talent evaluation process there. Because it's hard. Like, if you just throw somebody in there, I think a lot of people wanted Ansel...
Ansel Elgort.
Ansel Elgort from Baby Driver, and I could see that. But like you, I was wanted to know who this guy was, where'd he come from?
Yeah.
Why would someone think he could be Han Solo? You watched the Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah, so
Hail Caesar.
I kind of doubled up on this one because we're going to be doing in the near future, not our next episode, but in the near future, we're going to be doing a Josh Brolin episode. So I'm just trying to get as many Josh Brolin things under my belt as I can. And Hail Caesar's Coen Brothers movie that I hadn't seen before, and I usually see most of their stuff. So I thought it was just like a perfect excuse to cross all this off. Now, admittedly, Alden Ehrenreich is not a huge part of this movie. He plays Hobie Doyle, who is like an actor. He's an actor in these westerns who is transitioning from black and white, non-speaking movies to talkies. And he maybe is not the best casting for some of the stuff that he's being put in. But he plays like a hapless but lovable, just dumb actor. And I got to say, I really enjoyed his role in this movie. If you haven't seen Hail Caesar before, it stars Josh Brolin as the head of Capitol Pictures.
He's like a fixer, right?
Yeah, but he's also like the head of this, in this whole company. But yeah, he is a fixer. He's going around, and there's a lot of different vignettes, and there's things that he has to deal with in his day to day, and you're pretty much just going along the ride with him. This movie's kind of scatterbrained, like it's just a lot of different things happening in different corners of the world, so less focused than most Coen Brothers movies, but there's some really fucking great set pieces and some really, really funny, interesting stuff in this. The scene, so one of the parts of this movie that I love the most is actually seen with Alden Ehrenreich. He's been cast in this drama that's being directed by Ralph Fiennes' character. What the fuck's his name? Lawrence Lawrence. And he's this very like high society kind of director who's adapting a Broadway play into a film, and it's just not. I mean, Alden Ehrenreich's character is used to being in westerns, doing acrobatics on a horse, throwing a lasso around.
A lot of physical comedy, a lot of physical acting.
Yeah, he's not a suit and tie, prim and proper drama kind of guy. And there's this exchange where he's being told to deliver the line, "Would that it were so simple." And it's a classic example of milking comedy out of taking something to the extreme, going way too long with this joke. The scene between him and Ralph Fiennes is just fucking perfect. And any doubts that I had about him as a major actor, as somebody that can pull off playing a role that put Harrison Ford on the fucking map, melted away in that scene. Like it just made me laugh so fucking hard, man. And that's mostly what this movie was just a lot of scenes strung together that made me laugh but had no fucking coherency between them.
Yeah, I'd say it's one of the more polarizing Coen Brothers movies. A lot of people like it because they are fans of that 1950s era filmmaking. Most notably, Marc Maron spoke to Josh Brolin about it in their recent interview, and Maron just loved the recreation of these big set pieces, and the way they captured the tone and even like the color palette, like they really made it look like it's an authentic scene from the era. And
it's a very faithful adaptation of a time period.
Yeah, and I think there's something people older than us are going to get out of that movie that we will never understand. Like we won't be able to appreciate a good part of this movie because of that. Coen Brothers are one of those people where like their worst movie is still better than most people.
Yeah.
But I kind of forgot his role in this, and then when you explained it, I was like, oh yeah, that kid was good.
Yeah, and he's one of the better parts of this movie, honestly, and he actually learned horseback riding and lasso tricks and playing the guitar. Like, he learned a lot of stuff for this role, and he's not even the main focus of the movie. He's a major part of it, and I think he's like the heart and soul of this movie. He's definitely the most virtuous character. But the movie as a whole, I would recommend it if you like Coen Brothers stuff. If you're looking at the cast list and going, oh man, I like all these people, I bet you this movie's great. Like, you might not get what you want out of it. Channing Tatum's in this, Scarlett Johansson's in this. Jonah Hill gets like almost top billing for all of 30 seconds of screen time. So there are definitely people in this movie worth watching for. George Clooney, I should have said too, is like one of the biggest parts.
Yeah.
He plays this actor Baird Whitlock, who's kidnapped by the trailers make you think that that's the whole movie, is him being kidnapped by this mysterious group and finding out who they are and rescuing him. But it's really just another thing that Josh Brolin's character has to deal with. So it's not given any more or less importance, I think, than everyone else's storyline.
But you saw something in Alden there. I mean, it's one thing to just get a pretty good role from the Coen Brothers. It's almost like you've been anointed.
Yeah, and this movie too has a lot of people that have worked with the Coens before. You know, Clooney, Brolin, even Channing Tatum. He's done stuff with them, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for them to bring in this relative unknown, someone who's, you know, up to this point not really done anything of note, like that's a big honor, and I think he pulls it off, and he really was, I think, other than Brolin, who is very, like, he demands your attention in every scene that he's in, and he's so good. But Alden Ehrenreich is playing, you know, up to snuff with everyone else, and there's some big names in this movie. So watching this, as lukewarm as I am about the movie as a whole, his performance made me want to see Solo more, for sure.
Gotcha. Okay. I watched a completely different type of movie. This is an adaptation of a young adult novel, so not something that I would particularly be interested in. Paul Scheer kind of convinced me in on this one because it's one of those so bad it's good movies, in his opinion.
Okay.
And I trust him. It's called Beautiful Creatures. It's directed by Richard LaGravenese, whatever. The point is, this director has done stuff like The Fisher King with Robin Williams, Freedom Writers.
Okay.
Last 5 years. He does very serious dramas for the most part that are like take place in real situations that are, like, you know, entrenched in realism. He also directed one of my favorite documentaries, A Decade Under the Influence, which is about filmmaking in the 70s. But he even admitted that he did something he's never done in his career, which was he was a part of this project, which was shamelessly trying to build a film series, like trying to make a trilogy, you know, going for the Twilight or
maybe
Divergent and stuff like that.
A little out of his element.
Yeah, this was definitely trying to be a product more than, you know, a piece of art. But there's a lot of fun stuff in here, and I've argued before, sometimes these messy movies, watching them, you know, chug along and try to make something of themselves are more fun than, you know, you would think, and more fun than like a good movie. Like, sometimes bad movies are more fun to watch than something that's just okay or good.
I mean, that's why people go to NASCAR races, right? To see wrecks.
Yeah, and I don't know. There's a charm in these type of movies to me because, like, everyone is trying really hard. It's like what I said earlier in the year with the hurricane heist. So the story of Beautiful Creatures is that the main character, Ethan, you know, he is very cynical about his small town. I believe it's in Alabama. Doesn't really matter. He says, like, it's the smallest town. It's the most nothing town in there. He's, like, shown as to be a intellectual, like, he reads books. There's a scene early on where his girlfriend at the time that he for some reason decided not to talk to all summer is like, you need to stop reading those books, Ethan, they mess with your brain. And everyone's real ultra conservative Christian in this town, and, you know, he's just considered a weirdo because he, you know, checks out the weird books at his library, which is influenced by his late mother, who said, you know, this is, you know, she never got out of the town, but this is the place I like to escape. So the movie based on the book is very pro reading.
Okay.
And it's pro reading, you know, books that are unlike the, you know, that the piece that this is adapted from, which I thought was pretty funny. But he meets this girl whose name is Lena Duchess. She is like shows up out of nowhere, and she's from this family that has like the creepy haunted house in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Like they're the weirdos of the neighborhood, and they're like, oh, she's got to be a Satan worshiper. And all the characters to me remind me of Varsity Blues. I don't know if you saw that football movie with James Van Der Beek.
No, it's a football movie.
But
I haven't seen
just
it.
your Hollywood, or even like Remember the Titans, if you even saw that one.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
I think I was forced to watch that in school one time.
And it's because usually when Southern teens are portrayed in a movie, it's a football movie because like football is life. So, you have like your Southern stereotypical cheerleaders and football player types, and they all drive pickup trucks and they all wear flannel. And, this girl who's like, for lack of a better term, like goth looking and doesn't smile and doesn't wear, makeup or whatever. Mm-hmm. She's immediately rejected by everyone except for this Alden person. I don't know. He's just looking for something different. And they immediately have chemistry and are interested in each other. And then her family, which all have like mystical powers, like her, I believe it's his grandfather named Macon Ravenwood, played by Jeremy Irons, is in it. And
who even in the worst movies usually like brings his A game.
Yeah.
I mean, he's Alfred in those fucking Batman movies, and
that's true.
They're no good.
That's true. He's there to deliver the lines. There's a scene where he shows up out of like thin air playing the harmonica in Ethan's bedroom, and this tries to drop this bomb line about like humanity, and like I don't understand humanity. They are the weakest, and they just are so they're stubborn, and despite their weaknesses, they strive for greatness or something like that. I'm butchering the line, but it's just funny. Emma Thompson shows up. She is the mother. She is the mother of this Lena character, and she's sassy as shit. She brings like a lot of energy, and it was just a delight to watch. And that's kind of what this movie was all over, is like everyone is giving it their all, because like one of my friends said, I guess they thought they were making the next Harry Potter. Viola Davis plays the head of the library, and she has a soft spot for Ethan. I guess she worked closely with his mother and probably saw him grow up, and grow into this man. So she's very protective of him. And then fucking Emmy Rossum from Shameless fame shows up out of nowhere. She's like the bad cousin, and there's a great scene where she's driving a convertible with the little bandana around her hair. Okay. She's got the big sunglasses, and she speeds past a officer, and he's trying to chase her. And with her powers, she turns his eyes yellow. His face like swells up and gets all veiny, and then car flies off the road and like blows up.
Jesus.
So she can like control all people, which she uses like her sex appeal to control men, which is like a weird trope, because if you can do it, why do you have to be sexy? Like, you have these powers.
Yeah.
I don't know if they need to like, there's like a vampire thing there too. Maybe that's what it is. Like there's a scene with Emma Thompson's character where she's like, can I come in? And Ethan's like, no. And she's like, but I made you brownies, and like flips out and like turns into this like sci-fi creature. It's weird.
I mean, movies like this though, like in the last 10 years especially, thanks fucking Twilight, like monsters and witches and ghouls and creepy stuff has to be sexy now. That's all it is.
Yeah, because you want to get everyone in.
Yeah.
You want the teenage girls, but you also want the teenage boys. Oh, I buried the lead here. Margot Martindale of BoJack Horseman fame.
I guess she got actress Margot Martindale.
Yeah, character actress Margot Martindale. She got out of prison for this one. She plays Aunt Dell, Lena, again, like the girl, the main girl, like her aunt. So like her family is all like wizards or warlocks or whatever. They can shoot lightning bolts. Like there's a scene where Ethan comes back for Lena, and she's like in the circle in her big haunted mansion she lives in, and all of her relatives have like this lightning bolt fucking circle to protect her. But I like this movie, man. I was like laughing the whole time. It's ridiculous, and I'm a fan of that type of stuff. I think they honestly wanted to make a really good movie. They didn't, but it was entertaining. And a big reason why it's entertaining is that Alden Ehrenreich, thank you. Like, he has so much charisma, and like this is his big shot, and he just fucking takes it, man. And he totally sells out for this Ethan character. So much so that I keep reminding myself, like I was definitely looking at it, with like the Larry David like squinted eye, like is the same guy? Because like he is this character, for better or for worse. He's this character. It's nothing like his portrayal of Han, and it was just a really fun bad movie. Like, I have no reason to watch this movie other than it was his biggest role up until Solo. I had a great time with it. And I talked to a bunch of my friends who like read the novels because they're like Twilight, Harry Potter fans. Right. And they were like, yeah, it's not a bad it's like we enjoyed it. It's not the best adaptation, but
they're not making more, that's for certain.
No, they're not making more. It failed in that aspect, but it's the perfect movie to like sit down with your friends, watch and make fun of and enjoy. Like it's like get a bottle of wine, bring your snark, and just like, and then it's not a hate watch, but just like
watchable bad movies.
This movie.
Yeah, watchable bad movies are a rare breed because most of the time it's just like you're just waiting for it to be over, and we've slogged through some shit. See our video game adaptation episodes. We sit through some fucking awful things.
No, if this was a video game movie, it'd probably be the best one in my eyes. It's superior to like all video game movies.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it, and like, yeah, if you're looking for something, maybe like this is not your genre, but the person you're watching stuff with would be more likely to watch this. I think you're going to enjoy it. There's stuff there.
Cool. So that's on Netflix, right? So if people want to check that out, that's there. Hail Caesar, I should say too, is not streaming anywhere. But check out your local library. Yeah. I'm gonna just espouse how great the library is regularly now because I've got a huge stack of movies from there, and it's all stuff that I can't watch anywhere else. So definitely, go check out your local library if you haven't already.
We are library bros. Yeah. Socialism at play.
Let's move on to probably what's going to be my favorite part of this episode.
Okay.
Let's talk about Donald Glover.
Okay. Oh, real quick. Like, so do you think he's got the chops? Pre-Solo.
Alden Ehrenreich?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something there, right?
I can see why he got cast as Han Solo. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. As of now, I'm all in on Alden Ehrenreich.
Yeah, let's get to Donald Glover. I think the reason we were most excited about Solo, if there's a pie chart of why we want to see Solo, like 75%, like 6 of the 8 slices are Donald Glover's.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. Absolutely. Yeah, I love Donald Glover, man. Like going back to his Derrick comedy days, like that's how I was initially introduced to him. Is his sketch comedy group Derrick Comedy that he did with his buddies Dominic Dirks and DC Pearson. This was like in the early days of like College Humor, and in YouTube they had this comedy troupe, and they did some really fucking bizarre sketches. Girls Are Not to Be Trusted was probably the first one I saw. There's also Bro Rape. New Bike is probably my favorite. It's just it's a very it takes a turn about halfway through that sketch. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm not going to ruin it. But just go to YouTube and look up Derrick Comedy and watch any of that stuff. After that, Donald Glover also went on to write for 30 Rock, which great show, probably one of my favorites, and definitely one of my favorites, if not my absolute favorite of all time. He was Troy Barnes on Community. I can't think of a person on that show that I loved more than him as Troy. Just really fucking amazing. Now hasn't done as many movies, but he's really starting to blow up. I think his Childish Gambino persona definitely put him on a lot of people's maps. Showed that he's like a triple threat. He can write, he can act, he can rap. He's a jack of all trades. He can do a lot of stuff.
At least triple. I'd argue even more threats than that.
Yeah. He's a quadruple threat probably. But yeah, he was in
threat.
He was in last year's Spider-Man Homecoming, where he played Aaron Davis, which is going to be eventually Miles Morales' uncle. So they're kind of sneaking him in there. I think there's also talks of him being in Black Panther now, which that's exciting. Maybe that's how you get Miles Morales in there, is you tie Black Panther and Spider-Man together. But I want to talk about the first movie that he did, and it's actually one that he did with his Derrick Comedy buddies, Mystery Team. This fucking movie is so good, and you can watch it on Hulu or Amazon Prime right now. I watched it on Amazon. It's definitely, like, I'm just going to say it right now, it's definitely worth it. This is like your adult Encyclopedia Brown or the Hardy Boys. It's about these high school guys who have been best friends their whole lives, and they have a mystery solving team where they charge like a dime to solve your mystery, figure out who stole the pie off the windowsill, whatever, and they get wrapped up in some pretty adult stuff. A little girl comes and says, "Hey, can you find out who killed my parents?" And then they spend the whole movie trying to prove that they're real detectives and real heroes by solving this murder.
Yeah, the humor, I guess, stems from the fact they're high school seniors, but like you said, Encyclopedia Brown or like Harriet the Spy, like that's the type of humor, and that's the maturity of the characters.
But everyone else around them is like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like there's a juxtaposition between how they see the world and how people view them. And that's where a lot of the humor comes from, is everyone around them being normal people and then them being fucking bonkers insane. I mean, it's great. It's as good as any other comedic trio. Like, fuck Workaholics. Give me Derrick comedy. Why don't these guys have a TV show?
Yeah, I mean, there's room for both, I'd argue. But I'll let you have your shot at Workaholics that you snuck in there. But I would say, like, their immaturity brings out some of in the frustration of the other characters, like their ridiculousness comes out. And I would agree with you, except for Bobby Moynihan's character, like the convenience store manager.
Yeah, he's other ridiculous.
He might be the most ridiculous character.
Yeah.
And his whole thing of like, hey, here's an ice cream before you get it done. And he just like pelts fucking Donald Glover with ice cream sandwiches.
Yeah,
That's a good gag.
Well, and that's also Bobby Moynihan and Ellie Kemper of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. They were both holdovers from the Derrick comedy days. Like, they did some skits. There's one, I forget, I think it's just called Blowjob, but there's one that Ellie Kemper did that is pretty priceless, an old skit of theirs.
Yeah, her character's weird in this, dude, because she runs around on a bike with pigtails like she's 12, and she's obviously as old as those characters. Well, they're all like 20-somethings playing 16-year-olds who act like 12-year-olds.
Yes. Yeah, and her whole thing is coming in and like just yelling random silly things that they need to investigate. Like, hey, there's something fishy going on at the old mill. I think it's fish, or whatever. Like, just whatever dumbass thing. She's definitely a joke character, but she sells it, man. She sells it so bad. And yeah, Bobby Moynihan is like the guy who says, you know, the day I started working in this convenience store, I knew I'd work here until the day I killed myself.
Yeah, he's like, the whole scene where he's selling, like, yeah, man, this is the life. And then, like, I forget, like, someone was, like, eating the cat food or something. There's, like,
oh, no, there was a guy fucking bread.
Fucking bread, yeah. He's, like, a bread fucker. And he's, like, dealing with that. He's like, no, it's still the dream. I'm still living the dream.
I mean, this movie, it does what a good comedy, like, if you're going to have characters this silly, that the whole thing is about them being immature, like, have some commentary on growing up and maturing, and I think that this movie does that well. Donald Glover's character, Jason, he's the one who's really trying to, like, pull the team together and keep them together.
He's holding on to the mystery team.
He
typical, like, leader of the group.
Yeah.
Like, the dynamic is very familiar with the mystery team. Like, he's a little alpha male, I guess you would call it. I don't know what you call it, but he's the vocal leader.
If this is the Scooby-Doo team, he's Freddy.
Yeah.
You also have Duncan, who's DC Pearson's character. He's like the boy genius. So he got a book of like interesting facts when he was in 5th grade, and he's just been espousing those ever since. And then there's strongest kid in town, Charlie, who is not the strongest kid in town, but he's the muscle. He's their muscle. So you got the muscle, the brains, and then the leader. So
they all like that. You could argue that what their strength is supposed to be is their weakness.
Yeah, absolutely. But they do. I mean, I think the script does a really good job of just paying tribute to these tropes of characters and putting their own spin on it, because having watched them kind of grow and do their comedy as Derrick comedy, and then to see them graduate to this movie, it feels like a complete movie. You can watch this without having ever seen any of their sketches, but if you have that background first, it feels like a natural progression for them, and it's like, oh fuck, like they've gotten better, they have grown, they've been able to write enough sketches that they can write a complete full feature-length movie. And put a lot of cool people in it too. We didn't even mention Aubrey Plaza.
Yeah, I was going to wonder,
fucking love.
Is she an outsider? Was she? Because I don't know the history of Derrick comedy.
She wasn't like part of their troupe at all. I think that they probably met through him writing for 30 Rock or something. Like they
have similar upbringings.
They run in the same circles. Also, shout out to Will Hines, who showed up in this, who I didn't even remember was in this movie. He does a podcast. He does 2 of them actually. Screw It, we're just going to talk about the Beatles, and Screw It, we're just going to talk about Spider-Man. So I recognized his voice immediately. He has a very distinctive voice, but he's a great podcaster.
There's a lot of good cameos. Ben Schwartz is in there for a minute.
Just for a second. But
I don't know how they got him to like just calmly deliver lines and not be ridiculous.
Yeah, he's actually the straight man in it. Oh, fucking Matt Walsh. His whole thing is great in this. There's a scene where Donald Glover's character Jason is like sneaking into an office building that's having a costume party,
pretending to be an adult.
Yeah. And yeah, Matt Walsh plays just like a guy at the office who's, I mean, he's like typical Matt Walsh character.
He's like a guy that slaps your back and like, hey, have a drink, check out this guy. And then you realize like he's just a lonely middle-aged man that's like desperate for friendship. I like that joke because I think he was trying, like Donald Glover's character is trying to sneak in as an actual plumber, and there was a costume party, so they just thought it was a costume because it was such a bad.
It was so bad
plumber outfit. Yeah.
That's like one of the things he does throughout the movie too. Is he's always got a costume. Like he's excited to put costumes together real quick. The movie even opens on them like harassing an old man that they
think's a murderer.
They think he's the murderer. Yeah, so it jumps forward and then back in time a little bit. But I think opening on that, it almost opens with a sketch, so it kind of sets you up for what you're gonna get. And he has like a really bizarre costume on during that scene as well. He's like pretending to be a rich and entrepreneur or whatever who wants to buy the house that he's in
with like a fake gray mustache.
Yeah.
And then back to Glover, man. Like his charisma, his energy is what makes this movie, in my opinion. I don't know if it's because most of us are going to go into this just looking to see some of his early work. I watched it when it came out because, like, when I worked at the video store, some people were really into Derrick comedy, and they were pumped for this movie.
I was following it before it came out and was really excited. Like, I might have even rented this on iTunes or something, which I never fucking do, but it was like the only way that I was going to be able to see it. So I remember being excited for this. Being impressed with it at the time, and I had to say it held up for me. Like, this is exactly my kind of humor. It's silly, but it has that heart there. I know we say that shit all the time. It has heart,
shot,
whatever. Yeah. But it does. Like, it's got something going on where you care about the characters, even though some of them are so fucking bizarre. It is laugh out loud funny at times. Like, it's well paced, and Donald Glover he masterfully proves that he is like, if you watched this movie when it came out, you would have known, this is a guy that's going to have a great career ahead of him.
For sure. It's a different side of him, though. Like, what I love Atlanta, what he's doing now, and then, like, his Childish Gambino career, he's evolved and his albums get more serious and definitely have a lot of political and social commentary, and the latest single, This Is America.
But this is so
you see his
silly.
Goofy side, his silly
so
side.
Bizarre.
He also learned how to make a movie. Like, he wrote and he helped produce this.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool, like, to go back and see the goofiness of him. And I think the same can be said. Did you watch Weirdo, his stand-up special?
Yeah, I've seen it. I haven't watched it recently, but I've seen it before. Yeah.
So I rechecked this out, which is a 2012 special. You got like a baby-faced, wide-eyed, Donald Glover here.
Yeah.
And for those that didn't know, early on, he would do these shows where he would do half stand-up comedy, a little bit of spoken word, and then he would sing, he would rap. And Weirdo was a lot of the material from that all collected, and he has a lot of bits. I mean, it's clearly 2012, like, he does a lot of jokes that are very specific to this time, but I thought it was really enjoyable. I'm a huge stand-up fan, and I think a lot of people forget, with all he's done now, that he used to be a pretty good stand-up comedian, along with writer, producer.
I'd say he was an exceptional stand-up comedian.
Musician.
He's a good writer, just generally. I think he has a great understanding of the written language, and he knows how to perform. So he's just like, he's just perfect on all accounts there. Yeah,
it's part of he's so talented that there's a huge what if, like, he could have done whatever he wanted to do.
Yeah.
I think he could have, if he wanted to be a stand-up, the talent's there, if he puts in the work, and I think could be something he gets back to. Like a lot of stand-up comedians, if he goes through the film and TV world and gets frustrated, the cool thing about stand-up is that it's just you. No one's holding you back, especially with the culture of Netflix, where they will just pick up anyone whose name has been on a marquee and basically give them a stand-up special.
Yeah.
I would like to see later on the more mature Donald Glover, Donald Glover now. I would be so curious as what he would talk about for an hour on a special.
Did you see his SNL?
I saw some of it.
Yeah,
I want to go back to it.
I think if you watch his opening monologue from that and kind of the sketches that he does in that, you'll see that he's not trying to move past the silliness. Like, I feel like a lot of guys, if their careers had taken the same trajectory, they would almost want to move past the silliness and not agree to do something like SNL. But he embraces it, and he's just adding seriousness to his repertoire of acting ability. Like he can do it all, and there's some scenes in his SNL he does some sketches that are just as bizarre as some of the shit he did with Derrick comedy, but his monologue and his stand-up seemed a little bit more adult and mature, kind of like how you want. So I would suggest going back and watching that whole episode, because he's just fantastic in it.
Part of that is probably trying to prove himself and prove Lorne Michaels wrong.
Yeah, because he auditioned a couple times.
3 times, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, they probably would have loved to have him, but it's good. It's one of those things that worked out for the best.
Yeah.
And I think he's very self-aware, and it's interesting because the way he came up, you kind of feel like you know him, because, during his shows, he would hang out afterwards. Like, he was very open and available, especially online, because he was one of those people that took advantage of social media to help his notoriety grow and to show off through Derrick comedy his talent. And he's kind of closed off, which is, interesting. I don't blame him.
He's not dramatic, though. Yeah. Like, I don't feel like there's a lot of drama around him.
He logs on Twitter like twice a year.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, here's our tour dates. Here's us. Like, that's him.
He's a working man, though. Like, he's got a lot going on. He's got his hat in a lot of rings. So
yeah. And we get in trouble with this, but he's one of the people that I follow now. I feel like you know him a little bit more than you know your average actor or a musician. You get that, and that tends to get us to like root for him more than
he puts a lot
people.
of himself in his work.
Yeah,
and I think he kind of wears his personality on his sleeve, but in a way that isn't like, when you watch a fucking Cameron Diaz movie and it's just like, oh my god, she's the same in every movie she's in. Like, Donald Glover has a personality that he brings to all of his roles, but I also think, and I would have thought this prior to, and I still think it after seeing Solo, that he was the only person that could play young Lando Calrissian. Like, who the fuck else would it have been?
It was perfect. Yeah, it just made sense. When you heard that, you're like, yeah. But yeah, Weirdo, it's hard to review. Because you don't want to step on jokes, so I'm not going to tell you what the jokes are about, but I'm going to say, yeah, it's worth checking out. Like, if you're a fan of Donald Glover, you should check it out. If
it's on Netflix.
Fan of stand-up, you should check it out.
You can get there. Yeah, just go watch it on Netflix. I'm also going to suggest, if you haven't seen Community, watch Community.
We could do a whole separate, not podcast episode. We could just do a podcast.
Yeah, I will absolutely do a Community podcast with you anytime you want. I've seen that show. I've watched every episode of that show probably 5 or 6 times through. I just on a loop sometimes. I love it so much.
I'd be interested to listen to Dan Harmon talk about that character, because the feeling I got was, I don't know if Troy was always supposed to be that way, but I feel it was like undeniable chemistry with Troy and Abed's characters, and then it just felt like Donald Glover, they just let Troy become who Donald Glover is. They let Donald Glover take over that role, because the way it evolved and became such a huge part of that show, they were such a great companion to Jeff Winger's character, and just allowed the show to go all these weird places, very imaginative.
I don't know of many other sitcoms that have a cast that had that much chemistry between them. I think that's one of the things that sold that show for me, was just you believed that these people, through all the bullshit they put each other through, would somehow still stick together as a family. And I think Troy was like the heart and soul of that family to an extent. And him leaving, like, he leaves halfway through season 5, and it's heartbreaking. Like, it's a really rough episode to watch, because his character arc has come to a close, and it is a satisfying ending for somebody that you don't want to see go. So it's like bittersweet. But
every time he does that, though, it makes sense. You're like, yeah, he needs to move on.
Yeah, no. And at that point too, he was like starting Atlanta, and he was doing a lot of Childish Gambino stuff. So I never blamed him for leaving the show. I'm glad that they gave him a fitting goodbye. But his man, and so gift worthy. Yeah. Some of his faces on that show, like the perfect response gifts to 90% of the conversations I have with people.
For sure. We love Donald Glover. Yeah, sorry, but yeah, he's just one of those guys. When he does something, I go out there and just like, please watch Atlanta.
Yeah.
Like, I'm definitely
I think
I'm on the street team.
I need to really double down. I've seen a few episodes of Atlanta, but I need to actually sit and like fucking binge it now.
Yeah. It's good to sit when you watch TV.
Yeah.
Moving on to the third star of Solo, as we try to, I guess we were trying to validate or just kind of speculate, because I feel like more than Rogue One, Solo was a big popcorn, like big studio attempt at a movie.
Yeah,
so it was interesting. And of course, if you guys didn't figure it out, we think Donald Glover has the chops to pretty much do anything he wants to in the acting world, in the filmmaking world. Emilia Clarke, probably to some people the biggest household name of them all in this. She plays Daenerys in Game of Thrones, which is, arguably the most popular TV show, especially on cable, non-network show.
Yeah. And she plays one of the only original characters in Solo, Kira, who grew up with Han on the planet that they were living on at the very beginning. She has kind of a tumultuous romance with him. But she hasn't been in a ton of movies, and I think it was an interesting opportunity to kind of see what else she has. I made the mistake, and I'm not going to talk about this movie much, but I made the mistake of picking one that she is almost top billed in, but barely in at all. And I thought that she would have a bigger role in it based on the description of the movie and the trailer. But I watched Dom Hemingway, which is a Jude Law movie. Jude Law plays this guy, Dom Hemingway, who's just gotten out of prison. He was in prison for 12 years. He's a safecracker. He's a criminal. And the reason he was there for so long is because he didn't rat on anybody. So he's very prideful. He's very boastful. He's known for not being able to keep his fucking mouth shut.
But he doesn't rat on anybody.
Yeah, he doesn't rat on anybody. He's just a loudmouth, and he's very opinionated, and he's kind of thrown his life away by spending 12 years in prison. And Emilia Clarke plays his daughter, and he's trying to reconnect with her. He's trying to basically piece his life back together, but also get what he's owed, because he knows that the guy that he didn't rat on owes him a huge fucking debt. So this movie came out just a few years ago. It could have very easily gone under people's radars. I don't feel like there was a lot of promotion for this.
Went under my radar.
It was real fucking good. Mm-hmm. Jude Law, it's such a different role for him, because Dom Hemingway, 1 second you want to give him a hug, and the other second you want to punch his fucking teeth out. He's such a loudmouth, and he's such an asshole. But the transformation that he goes on throughout this movie, and just his character development is so well done. It's exactly what I want out of a movie like this, where it's the asshole learns to grow a heart and learns to cop to his mistakes. There's some scenes in this movie where he just does something as simple as apologize for being an asshole, and he sells the shit out of it. It's so good. He has some really, really amazing emotional breakdowns in this movie, but it's also really funny. There's a lot of this movie that had me laughing out loud. There's a scene where he's trying to basically find new work. He's trying to find a new boss to work for, and he goes to the son of a rival that he'd had before he went into prison, and the son fucking hates this dude. Dom, one of the last things Dom did before he went to prison was kill the kid's cat, and that's the only thing this guy, he's a younger guy. He runs all these raves and nightclubs. Dom's a little bit older. He feels like the world's kind of moved on without him. But they make a bet where Dom's invited over to his office, and he says, break into this safe in 10 minutes. If you can do it, I'll give you a job. If not, I'm going to cut your dick off. And so there's a race against the clock for Dom to open this safe in 10 minutes. And it is so, it's such a good scene. And Jude Law, at one point, he's taken the safe and he's, fucking it, basically. He's jostling it around in a way to try and open the safe, but he's really just dry humping it. But he fucking sells it, dude. It's so good. It's so funny. The suspenseful parts are suspenseful. There's some oh shit moments. There's a lot of surprises, so I don't want to talk about the plot too terribly much. Emilia Clarke's character, she is fine. She plays the daughter of a guy who's been an asshole to her whole life, so she's not given a whole lot to do.
Her job is to kind of hold the carrot of love out there and just not accept this motherfucker, because he's got a lot to walk back, I would assume.
Exactly. Exactly. And the scenes between him and her, I have to say, Jude Law doesn't seem as, my perception of him, he's not old enough to have Emilia Clarke as a daughter, but they kind of sell it. Dom Hemingway as a character.
Hemingway could have got laid when he was 12.
He's got a little bit of a gut on him, and he's balding, so he looks
the facial hair really.
He's getting a little bit older.
I love that a good looking actor has to get shitty facial hair and just to be sleazy.
Yeah,
he really gets into character. I like Jude Law, so I could see myself really liking this. Also, Richard Shepard, the director and writer, did a movie, The Matador, where Pierce Brosnan plays a similar character to what I think you're describing this Dom Hemingway as, and I thought that's a really good underrated movie. He plays like a hitman, and
it's him and William H. Macy in that one, right?
No, it's Great Kinnear.
Okay,
Great Kinnear. Yeah, so that one's really good.
Same person.
Yeah, same person. Yeah. William H. Macy was busy.
But yeah, man, I would really recommend this movie. If it had one downfall, the pacing's a little weird. It's split up into these. There's like 4 or 5 interstitials throughout the movie where basically the name of a new chapter. It doesn't say chapter 1, chapter 2, whatever. But a new phrase will pop up on the screen that kind of sets the tone for the next 20 minutes of the movie or whatever. Not bad. It definitely made me wish that it was more of like a mini series, like the trip that this guy goes on and the things that he experiences. There's a lot that happens in a very brief amount of time in this movie, so I wish I could breathe, spend a little bit more time with him in that world and those consequences of some of his decisions. But nothing was left hanging to the point where I was like, there were no obvious plot holes. There was nothing that made me angry. I was just like, man, I could watch 8 episodes of this easily.
Yeah.
And it could have been a role that really put Jude Law, I think, in more people's minds. But it's a movie, and it's just a really above average movie. I would highly recommend it to everybody. Note that Emilia Clarke is not as much in it as you would be led to believe. I definitely thought she was going to be in it more. Regardless, she was good in it. Jude Law's fucking amazing in it. Do yourself a favor and find a way to watch Dom Hemingway. I don't believe it is streaming anywhere. This is another one that I got from the library. But it's worth a $3, $4, $5 rental on Amazon.
You're going to have a good time with Dom Hemingway.
Yeah, and if you like Jude Law, he doesn't disappoint, and he does something very different from what he usually does. So, highly, highly recommending this to anyone that is listening to this podcast, regardless of your taste.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes we need to be reminded that fill in the blank is really talented.
Yeah.
So I did a better job at the homework assignment. I didn't have to say that. It's obvious, but I'm going to say it. Just PSA, because I know the algorithm for IMDb will kind of screw people up on the cast. There's the cast overview, and a lot of time that's just in order by popularity. It can get shuffled. There's where they list the director, the writer, and the stars. That's usually the way to go. I'm giving you shit, but I've done the same thing because they will do that. They'll mix up the cast. I saw Terminator Genisys, yet another movie that I was not expecting to be very much. I had no interest in this movie. If we didn't shoehorn it into a topic, I would have probably never seen Terminator Genisys. This is a major twist on the Terminator timeline and the Terminator franchise, where the Christian Bale one, a lot of people argue it's not canon anymore.
Really?
The Terminator.
See, I've only seen
whatever the fuck that was.
I've only seen the first 2, and people love the second one. It doesn't do anything for me, so I never bothered with 3, 4, 5.
You have no soul. Yeah, Terminator Salvation is the one from 2009 that people say isn't canon. Terminator Genisys is 3 years old. Came out 2015. Emilia Clarke plays Sarah Connor, which is arguably the most important, biggest character in the Terminator series.
Did she do it with a British accent?
No.
Okay. No, she dropped the accent.
She has the look and the attitude. She nails Sarah Connor.
Okay.
Great job as that. She's got action movie chops. I really liked her. I thought she did a really good job. She's, she's got a Terminator on her side, but she's intimidating to him. She definitely takes charge in a lot of the the missions that throughout this movie. The story of Genisys is that John Connor, are you familiar with this character? The leader of the Resistance, the character they always try to go back in time and kill, sends Sergeant Kyle Reese back to 1984. Kyle Reese is also a character in the original Terminator. He's the guy that saves Sarah Connor from evil Arnold Terminator in the first movie.
Is he supposed to be John Connor's dad?
Yeah, I was going to get to that.
Okay.
But he finds out that he's actually John Connor's dad, which is interesting because in the future, he's he's younger. When he meets John Connor in the normal timeline, he's a young boy in the sewer, and John Connor kills a Terminator and becomes Kyle Reese's hero which is interesting because he goes back in time and makes John Connor
Yeah.
with Sarah Connor. So that's introduced. I think that was always assumed if it wasn't spoken out loud in the movies. I didn't rewatch Terminator recently, so I don't know.
Okay.
Jason Clarke plays John Connor. Arnold plays the Guardian, they call him in that, or as Sarah Connor calls him, Pops, which I thought was pretty funny. So there's some good chemistry there. Arnold brings, his Terminator skills. He hasn't really skipped a beat in that one.
Okay.
He is the fucking Terminator. He does good. J.K. Simmons is in it. He plays a writer who witnesses a couple events that makes him obsessed with the whole Terminator situation. He was a young cop when Kyle Reese comes back from the future to present day, and he witnesses this shoot off between him and the Terminator. So he becomes obsessed with this.
Okay.
And he plays a really good character in that. But it's mainly Arnold, Emilia, Jason Clarke battling because, spoiler, John Connor becomes infected with Terminator technology and becomes a bad guy. And what they're trying to stop in this new timeline, because the Terminators basically the Resistance goes back, fix something, and then Terminators go back.
Wait, does he get
through Skynet and create a new event and change the timeline?
Does he get infected with a virus that turns him into a robot?
It's liquid technology where he becomes a cyborg.
That doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous. It makes leaps and bounds, and it definitely tries to suspend your disbelief more than any Terminator movie. But it's fun. Again, this is a bad movie. The pacing, the action, the talent that's there, and that is just bought into this character and these characters. At least up until post production, because Emilia Clarke has said, "I'm not doing any more Terminator movies." Okay, it was an exhausting, soul crushing experience for her, and I think Jason Clarke as well. Where they're like, "Nah, we good. We're not doing any more Terminators." Not only that, so they have to retrofit the Terminator story into where technology has taken us. So T2, these movies bounce around decades upon decades. They go 50 to 100 years in the future, I feel like. And so now they have to go back and retrofit it, and there's this I forget the name of it, but there's this app that's coming out. It's the all-encompassing app that's going to be on everyone's phone that helps you with everything. And that is Skynet now. Okay. So they have to stop the launch of this app. They have to get to the building because there are physical modems or whatever. There's physical hardware that stores this, and they speed up the timeline eventually because there's a bunch of plot holes or things you could be well, why wouldn't they just launch it earlier or just pre-install it in phones?
Granted, I haven't watched all these movies, but if they're gonna do this shit where they want to have their cake and eat it too, and have an updated Terminator, but still have the lore in the movies be canon, they just need to get real weird with the alternate universe stuff. We're in a new timeline. They created an alternate universe. Whoops. Yeah. Just fucking call it that. Just call it different universes.
It's an alternate timeline, but it's basically the issue with time travel, which is such a hard thing to handle in a movie, especially, is that they're basically doubling down. They're playing this game of checkers, because it's definitely not chess here, with Skynet and with the Resistance, and oh, you fix this, well, we'll fix that, and they're gonna have to go back. I don't know what you're gonna do. You're gonna go back and kill all these people as babies, which it's the argument in Deadpool 2. Yeah. Where you can't go back in a specific time or whatever. But it's a lot of sloppiness. There's a lot of stuff you have to just suspend disbelief and go with. And to me, it works because, one, Kyle Reese's character is so naive, his naivete, it's charming in a way. So you're okay, this movie's kind of dumb, but this guy's also kind of dumb, doesn't know what's going on. So you kind of relate to him because you're what the fuck have I gotten myself into? And Emilia Clarke's acting ability, and just she's such a badass, and she's fun to watch. And the twists and turns in the movie, you think it's going one way, and they just bring this ridiculous twist. But at that point, I'm already sold in on this movie. Okay, it's not great, but it's good. It's dumb as shit, but I watched
a lot of good bad movies this week.
Yeah, that's what ended up happening. Yeah, I watched 2 good bad movies, and Terminator Genisys. I think it's a really good. Again, it's like Beautiful Creatures, great to sit down and watch with your friends and make fun of, or just you just give up. You don't know what to watch. It's an easy, dumb fun watch if it's on cable or whatever. You can rent it for about $3. We got it from the library. Hashtag library bros again. But yeah, I can't. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I enjoyed watching this movie. It was entertaining.
Oh, okay. I'm not gonna watch it, but I would have to watch 3 and 4. I would have to watch the other Terminator movies, and I don't feel like I'm doing that.
You don't have to, man. Like, it's like Star Wars. You know who Sarah Connor is. You know who John Connor is. You know who the Terminator is. You could just watch this one. You don't have to go backwards.
Okay. All right.
Let's get to the main event.
Yeah,
the reason why
the meat of this episode.
We watch these fucking movies.
Solo, Star Wars story. If you have ever watched Star Wars, the original trilogy, and every 15 minutes going, ooh, I wonder where that came from. This is the movie for you.
Not every 15 minutes, but I think people are curious. Like, Lucas did a good job of introducing these characters. You kind of got the gist of who they are. But, yeah, if it's one of your favorite characters, you'd want to go back. You'd want to see the origin story.
Yeah, so this is definitely that. This is showing you where Han Solo came from, how he got his piloting skills, how he met Chewbacca, how he became the scruffy, what is he, scruffy nerf herder? Is that what he is? Whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Where his attitude came from.
His views on romance, his views on love, like his views on the global, just how things work, the economy, the politics of Star Wars.
Yeah.
The rebellion. And and there's a lot of drama behind the scenes on this movie because
Phil Lord and Chris Miller were originally going to direct this, which I was really excited for. Han Solo, I mean, I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but he's arguably like one of my favorite parts of the original trilogy. So as difficult as it is to find somebody that can hold up to Harrison Ford, I thought Phil Lord and Chris Miller can do it. They can pull this off. If they can make the fucking Lego movie good, they can make a Han Solo movie good.
Yeah, there's definitely a chemistry there. They have their own style, a sense of humor. They also did Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. They worked on that, which I thought was really funny.
I love that movie.
Yeah, ridiculous. They worked on Clone High and the 21, 22 Jump Street movies, which also were like wild as shit and better than they ever should have been for like a TV adaptation of a show no one cared about.
But it was not meant to be. There were some creative differences, I think, between them and the writers. So Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote like The Big Chill, Wyatt Earp, Raiders of the Lost Ark, like he's an old school screenwriter for Hollywood. He wanted to write this movie with his son, Jonathan Kasdan, which ended up happening. I guess they didn't see eye to eye with Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
The term used was they wanted to take too many risks.
Yeah.
There's too many risks at every turn, and they're just still so precious with this IP instead of taking chances. I think,
and they brought in safe, reliable Ron Howard.
Super safe. This is so reactionary.
Yeah,
where the term Guardians of the Galaxy-esque was used by Phil Lord.
Really?
And that's kind of the tone they wanted to go for.
You would think after how big Guardians of the Galaxy was that they would want to do that.
Also Disney-owned property.
Yeah.
But they couldn't. This was too precious. So they get milquetoast, Ron Howard, who I don't hate. I know
I'm not a huge fan of him, man.
Yeah, you don't like him.
The best thing he's done, in my opinion, is that Beatles documentary, 8 Days a Week. And even that, it was like a documentary.
Yeah, I think his movies, he gets the utilitarian aspect of filmmaking. He knows how things work. He knows how to turn the lights on and where to point the camera. I'll give him that.
Yeah, he's competent.
He's very technically sound.
Yeah.
Which this movie's not, though. Can we talk about how gray it was?
Yeah.
Can we talk about how multiple people IM'd me and said, did you think this movie was really gray and poorly shot? So a couple people were going to complain to management at the theater because they thought their version of the film was damaged.
Yeah, I can see someone thinking that. It's a very gray, very drab movie, and I think
it's the first thing that stood out to me.
It's just the sets and the locations. I think it's low lighting in environments that are already dark and dreary,
but
and
it felt like you just put a filter over top of stuff. I was very aware of it. It stood out to me, and I was like, I guess they're trying to make this place look bleak and unlivable. But did you watch Blade Runner 2049? Because they made that seem beautiful in a morbid way. And this is the most expensive Star Wars film ever in terms of production. I don't know if it's because they had to reshoot a lot, but it didn't feel Like it was.
Yeah, they just had extra paychecks to cut.
My girlfriend comments and she's like, "This one seems like it was cheaper. It was cheaply made compared to the other ones."
Yeah, it feels kind of hobbled together, and man, this movie played it so safe. It's really just. It's fan service. It was 2 hours of fan service and playing it safe. They introduce a bunch of cool new characters. You have Woody Harrelson as Tobias Beckett. Basically, he runs into Han while Han's working for the Empire. Because something goes down. He tries to get off the planet with Emilia Clarke's character Kira, and
he's stuck in limbo because he can't proceed. Like there's this like checkout area, like you need like credentials to leave this planet, and he gets past the first line of security, and his only option is to join the military.
Yeah, so he does that, and then we find out that's where he gets his name, Solo. Yeah, like it comes from the guy who's like, oh,
who are your people?
Yeah. Yeah, and he says, "Oh, I have no one." So he's like, "Oh, I'll call you Han Solo," and he thinks real hard about what he's going to call this guy.
Hans Uno. No, that's not it.
that was definitely a moment where I was like, "Oh, it's going to be that kind of movie."
Super, yeah, that could be a clue. That is like the fan service is there, but you don't have to, nail on those. You don't have to stop. Look at the audience, say it, wait to make sure they got it, and then continue. And it does do that a couple of times.
It does that quite a few times.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he meets up with Tobias Beckett while he is with the Empire. They're basically him and Thandie Newton's character Val are pulling a job in the middle of this war.
They're a ragtag group of con artists. They've hijacked like military uniforms with like laser holes, as Han points out, and they're so charming that like there's a confrontation between like the lieutenant or the general or whatever, and he already knows Beckett. Like he's infiltrated this army.
Yeah.
And like
the Empire is also just dumb. They make a lot of dumb mistakes.
Dumb. There's so many of them, I guess you could sneak in, but yeah.
So it's those two, and then Jon Favreau's character Rio, who's like the cool CG character.
A lot of people hate. A lot of people were like, "Are you trying to give me Rocket Raccoon? Fuck you!" And I didn't think that way.
I didn't think that either.
Yeah, I went in trying not to hate this. I just went in like, okay,
I wanted to like it.
I'm just gonna see what it is.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. These three characters are interesting to me. I like the new characters that they add. I don't like that they made me like Val and Rio, only to fucking kill them super unceremoniously like 15 minutes later.
I think, like you got the campfire. Oh, Beckett and Val are lovers. Like that was good. That's kind of like Solo is. There's like some decent setup. It's just so unbalanced. Like, and they didn't know how to kill off their people.
And it's all about getting back to the things that we already know.
Yeah.
Like, they're not willing to really spend any time with these characters or learn about the new characters at all. Like, Rio goes down. They're pulling this job. Rio goes down because there's marauders that are coming to hijack, which we find out later these marauders are the good guys the whole time. Yet they fucking kill one of these dudes. Like, they shoot Rio.
Yeah, like, I guess Beckett's the bad guy. Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess, but they don't...
They're both like not mercenaries, but they're both rebels. But Beckett's in it for the cash, and the Marauders are in it for like a revolution.
Yeah, but no one realizes where their alliances are, so they all just fight each other, whatever. And then Val is like the one who's placed. There's this train scene, which some of the set pieces as an action scene were decent, but it just sucked. Like, she proved that she was a badass. She climbs this bridge, she places these detonators, and then she gets pinned down by droids. Not even her fucking fault. Like, they trip the sensor that sends the droids out. They pin her down, and she, rather than finding a badass way to get out of this situation, which she probably could have, she's already proven herself now, decides, I'm just going to fucking blow myself up. That's the only way this is going to go down.
Yeah, it's a big score. There's like, I forget the name of it, but there's this energy source, fuel source that, like, the Empire is, hoarding and fighting over, and it is like a form of currency where, like, they show
it's like
Han steals some in the beginning, and he has just like a little vial of it, and it's enough for these two broke kids from the slums of this planet to get out. They bribe someone at the gates to, like, at the airport or whatever to get out, and they're trying to steal like a ton of this shit, which is like a life-changing amount of money. And So
they also set this up to be like a heist movie. There's a lot of heist movie tropes, like get the team together, figuring out who everyone is, which go back and listen to our heist movie episode. We did that pretty recently. So that was very, like, I could tell all of the tropes that were being used from that genre in this movie. And there's a lot of that.
Sidebar, Woody Harrelson's like highbrow The Rock. If you need, like, he's gonna give a certain level of charisma. I think he's a much better actor than The Rock, but you can just throw Woody Harrelson into any genre film or series. It's like, Hunger Games. You just throw him in there. He'll wear goofy hair. He'll play this character. He understands, like, you just throw him in this world. He always understands who he's supposed to be. Yeah. Same with the Planet of the Apes trilogy.
Yeah.
Like, he has been, like, very reliable in these type of roles.
He does a lot with a little, because as I feel like as much screen time as Beckett gets, his character's not really developed at all. They keep they keep hinting at him having something more going on under the surface, and then they just cut away to Han doing something instead.
To this Han's movie. I get that, but he's there as an influential, he's like a dirtbag fucking shit, I can't think of. He's
the mentor. He's like a
dirtbag Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, well, he's like Colin Firth's character in Kingsman, Galahad. He's like the guy who's showing, this brand new life to a younger, more impressionable, like, hotshot.
Yeah.
So he's got that mentor role down.
All these people are really just characters for Han Solo to, like, react to and learn lessons from. That's all they are.
Yeah.
And some of them are fleshed out better than others, and I think it could be, like, based on the talent of the actor or just, like the bad writing some of them suffer.
Yeah. Oh, what did you think about Han and Chewie meeting for the first time? So, like,
I knew it right away. There's you could telegraph everything in this movie. They're like, we're gonna send him to the monster. So, like, the first meeting with Beckett sells him out because Han thinks he has an ability to blackmail Beckett and expose him to the military. Beckett flips on him. He gets thrown in this pit of mud that they built, like, on base. I guess, this is like a base, and they have the beast or whatever they call it, or the monster.
The beast,
and as soon as they mention that, I turn to my girlfriend. I go, "This is Chewie. This is where he's going to meet Chewie." It's kind of obvious.
Yeah, and Chewie. Can we talk about how they've just been, like, throwing prisoners in this hole, and Chewie's been eating people alive?
Allegedly.
I mean, allegedly, but how else has he been staying alive? We don't know how long they've had Chewie. We don't know where he came from. Like, they're just feeding prisoners to him. So Chewie's
got to eat. Chewie's got to eat.
Yeah. But anyway, so I guess Han speaks some Wookiee, and that's how he's able to get Chewie on his side.
Awkward scene.
It's so fucking convenient.
Well, no, but I thought it was, at first I'm like, this is kind of lame, but then I'm like, of course he does, because he's been communicating with Chewie throughout all these movies, so he has to speak it.
Yeah.
You can't, who like can translate but doesn't speak the language, so that made sense to me.
True.
Yeah. So, like, it's just the fumbling way they handled all this stuff. Like, even that scene, it's so muddy and shitty.
Yeah.
Like, it just looks like crap. And it's so hard to, like, figure out what's going on. And it's just, like, the placement of the camera, the way it's shot, like, everything is, like, amateur about it.
Yeah, and everything's so telegraphed. Mm-hmm. That was the thing that I kept coming back to. Like you said, you knew immediately when they said the beast that it was going to be Chewbacca, because of course it is.
Especially coming from The Last Jedi, which, like it or not, like, there's a lot of ambition behind that. There's a lot of creativity.
Yeah.
And then you just get back to this, like, formulaic movie. And it's interesting because I will tell you, like, when I got done, I was like, okay, that was a movie. It was the pacing of it, and I guess the bones of the story were interesting. Like, I think they had the right, outline for Solo. Like, it could have been really good.
Yeah,
I thought it was just like, okay, this is a good movie.
Well,
it's
like,
okay.
80% of the script that Phil Lord and Chris Miller worked on got adapted. So the majority of what they were working on went into this. I just think that, I think.
But it shows you, like, you could have 100% of the script, and if someone else directs it, you can take a line, you can take a scene, and just do it a million different ways.
Yeah, and Ron Howard was not the person to replace them at all. He was just quick and easy, and they knew that they could get him to finish the job. So that's all it was. But yeah, so much of this movie, man. Like, we didn't even talk about Paul Bettany as Dryden Voss, who's supposed to be the main villain of this movie.
Yeah, the big bad, the human bad, which, if you're familiar with Star Wars, there's always, like, there's usually a human character that is working for, like, a Sith.
Yeah, and we don't get too much on him. We just know that he's basically running, like, a criminal empire, and our introduction to him is him, like, killing some dude with this cool brass knuckle blade things, whatever those are.
Yeah.
Because every villain's got to have a cool new weapon. Why the fuck not? But we don't really get an understanding of what his role is in the world, like what his relationship with Kira is. It's kind of hinted at it being one-sided romantic.
He owns her, but they're romantic, and they could keep alluding to the fact that she's done some dirty stuff, which I guess the way I took it was she slept her way, she sold her body to get out of this,
or worse.
Planet.
Flash forwarding a little bit, we find out that. So she has this cool fighting style. She can really handle herself in a fight, which I thought she was. Kira, for all her flaws as a heist movie character, I felt like she was a strongly written female character for a Star Wars.
Don't tell
movie.
her that. Apparently, she got pissed when someone interviewed her. You're a strong female. It's a strong female character. She got mad. I mean, I get that because she's evil.
Yeah,
spoiler, she's evil.
Well, yeah, it turns out she I don't think she's evil. I think she's complicated, but she's been trained apparently by Darth Maul. Mm-hmm. She answers to him.
A very weird, videoed, shaky video Darth Maul.
Because there's got to be a hologram in there.
Yeah, he's hologram. She's got shitty service.
Which also
she does not have 4G.
People are losing their minds over Darth Maul being in this movie. I don't fucking care. I don't give two shits about Darth Maul.
There's and then he talked, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
that was my reaction.
Yeah, it was just, and they only cared about the reveal. They didn't care about doing anything with the character. I guess he'll come back in a sequel. Who knows?
Do you think anyone canceled the laser removal of their Darth Maul tattoo upon seeing this?
I don't know. Maybe.
You know about that, right?
People love Darth Maul. I mean,
before the movie, they thought he was gonna be the new Vader, so people got tattoos of him before ever seeing the movie.
And then he dies half an hour in.
It's so great.
Yeah,
I love that people build him up.
Same thing with fucking Boba Fett. He's got all of 4 minutes of screen time across all of the movies, and people love him.
Yeah. Well, no, the Clone Wars they show they're all Boba Fett.
I guess real Star Wars fans like the extended universe stuff.
These motherfuckers don't want to admit they like cool helmets. And Kylo Ren has the coolest helmet. Fucking Star Wars is like hat worship. I like the guy with the coolest hat and the coolest saber. Just kidding. I do like a lot of Star Wars stuff. I don't really mean people are gonna they're coming at us, man.
I mean, I don't. I'm still saying Rogue One's my favorite, just because I knew. So Rogue One, I know the nature of that story. Those characters have to die at the end, but it introduced me to a lot of cool and new, interesting characters that I did not see in another Star Wars movie before that. I'm not going to see in another Star Wars movie after that.
Isn't it an argument to play it safe, though? Is that maybe you would let Phil Lord, go crazy if it was a series, but there's probably not going to be another Solo movie.
No, I think there is going to be another Solo movie. They definitely set it up for a sequel, and I don't think it would be smart of them to go into that going, oh, we're just going to make one Han Solo movie. No fucking way they're just going to make one. But all of the new interesting characters that they introduced me to, Woody Harrelson as Beckett, dies. Paul Bettany as Dryden Voss, dies. Jon Favreau as Rio, dies. Thandie Newton as Val, dies. I like all those people. Give me one of them. Keep one of them.
Yeah,
Why put all...
So what's the sequel going to be? The Marauders fighting fucking Emilia Clarke and Darth Maul? I
guess, and then they tease Obi-Wan in that somehow, and then you have an Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul showdown.
I guess.
But, why introduce all these cool new elements? Why buy these shiny new toys and put them in the new box if you're going to fucking throw them away?
You answered your question.
I mean, yeah.
New figures, new merch.
But don't throw them away. Keep them around.
There's no porgs. There's no... Yeah, Ewoks in this one.
If Last Jedi had introduced porgs only to commit porg genocide, it would be the same thing. It'd be
porgicide. Yeah. Well, let's rein it back in a little bit. So Alden Ehrenreich. Thank you. Han Solo is shaky. They were towards the end.
It's okay.
I will give them credit for. They definitely did a thing with his posture and his character where there's one of the ending scenes where he's walking to the Marauders and he's got his blaster on the side.
Yeah.
And he does nail the posture of Han Solo. And also in the second card game meeting with Lando, he does it. I think
he's got the smirk.
He's going to take a brunt of the criticism, but I feel like if he was supported with a more suitable filmmaker, that he could have pulled it off. I really believe he could have.
I don't think he is not the weakest link in this movie. Mm-hmm. I think his performance is good. If you're not comparing it too hard to Harrison Ford, but I think he was competent and made me believe that he was this outlaw character. I liked when he was funny. He was funny. When he was sad, he was sad. You know, just his interactions with Lando and with Kira, like I bought it all. But
I thought Kira had a really good line that kind of sums up the movie, where she's like, "You want to think you're the bad guy, but you're the good guy." And that is Han Solo.
Yeah.
That's Han Solo to his core. And we know that through the other Star Wars movies, where he's always begrudgingly going along. He says he's in it for the score, but he always has more heart than he leads on, and that's why he's so lovable.
Yeah.
Because like he's not the the golden boy that Luke Skywalker is.
Yeah.
And that makes him, like, even because his head's not in the clouds, he's not trying to be a hero, but he can't help but be a hero. He's the reluctant hero. Like, that's the charm in Han Solo. And I thought they try to comment on that in their own sloppy way. I also thought Lando was totally wasted. Like, you have this.
Yeah, they didn't use him enough.
My beef was, don't have Kira tell me how he's a player and he's so charismatic. You're going to love this guy. Fucking show me. We have time in this movie.
Yeah.
Show me. So he cheats at card games. Like, he's, he everyone likes him. Like, they should like want to like cut his head off, but it's almost like everyone knows he's going to take their money, but they enjoy the process.
Yeah.
And they have Kira go try on his capes. And okay, so that's like, whatever, like, give me the tour, have him show me the Millennium Falcon. Like, I thought maybe he was going to steal Kira from Han or something. Like,
yeah, he wasn't used nearly enough in this.
Fortunately, L3, his droid was such a great character that she made him interesting by proxy, because just talking about him and introducing the fact that Lando probably fucked a droid.
Yeah,
that's kind of
because Kira asked her at one point, "How does that work?" And L3 goes, "Oh, it works."
Yeah.
So they definitely allude to Lando fucking a droid.
So I'll walk back my pansexual criticism, because this PG-13 movie openly states that Lando fucks robots, and that's cool.
There's another character that I was introduced to for the first time that I ended up really liking, that had a lot of depth to their character. And they got killed. There's another one. And, like, in a dark way. So a lot of Star Wars fans have pointed this out. Like, so L3 becomes this sacrifice. They use her brain as, like, a navigation system to escape, to do the Kessel Run in 12 whatevers. Yeah, so she gets shot up while they're leaving their heist location on Kessel. They're trying to escape with the what's it, Calaxia? Whatever. The glowing shit. Doesn't matter. The dragon glass. Yeah, the unrefined coaxium. And so she starts this droid rebellion, and she frees all the slaves, and then gets shot, again, unceremoniously, just like randomly. Lando goes to save her, fucking pulls half of her body apart, which was just unnecessary. He's trying to run. I mean, it was good because Lando is portrayed as a coward, and like Donald Glover does his best Billy D. Williams impersonation in this character. And like it's it's you show that some depth, that like there is some soul there in this character. He takes her top half, which you could assume, they're gonna put some legs on her, and they did a really poor job of like letting you know how badly she was wounded, because then you're like, they're gonna kill her. And and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, like, shout out to her. I'm going to be interested in going back and seeing some of the stuff she wrote and made on TV and streaming. She does a great job. Like, she brings life to this movie through this droid character that is so out of place. Like, so out of place in Solo. Like, I thought she was fantastic, and they kill her, and they fucking throw her brain basically into the Millennium Falcon, and so people she becomes part of the ship. Where like Solo in like the other Star Wars movies, like, come on baby, you can do this. Like, it's a personality to the Falcon. Is that L3? Because that's the way a lot of people are taking it, and I don't blame them. But like, I guess like Solo builds a relationship with her, and then because he doesn't really know her. Lando too. He doesn't. He stole her from Lando, which is like, why would you ever give that up in a card game? It's a lot of complicated shit that like these filmmakers just kind of like threw this thing out there and didn't figure it out. And didn't like fully flesh it out. And I think it was so over their head, which goes to your point that this wasn't the right people to make this movie. And it was that slipped by them. This film played it safe to a fault. The fucking fan service, man. The whole like seeing Chewie learn how to play that hologram chess. Okay. The origin of Han's lucky dice. Okay, there's another thing. The callback to the "I love you, I know" line, where Han says to, or Lando says to Han, "I hate you." Mm-hmm. Han says, "I know." Like, all these little references and callbacks and things, like they sap a little bit of the actual energy out of that movie.
They could have all worked, because we talk about this with MCU movies, is like it's an information gathering thing. Like, you're writing the biography, you're writing the wiki of Han Solo, and how did we get from A to B? So a lot of those things are necessary, but
the problem is Star Wars movies,
mishandled.
The nature of Star Wars movies, they're so fucking beholden to that lore. Like, they have to stick to that. The Marvel movies,
you're fucking with a religion.
The Marvel movies have 80 years of history that they can like pick and choose and redistribute and kind of change at will and do what they want to do. Like, they're not afraid to take risks and make big changes, like giving Thanos a completely different backstory and a completely different motivation than his comic self.
And Marvel fans are a little more lenient with that. A little more.
Yes, because it's alternate universe.
Yeah,
but these Star Wars movies, they got to play it safe, especially a prequel that introduces a character as big as Han Solo. But they don't have to like, he's so much younger in this movie. You don't have to rush to get there. Take your time. If you're going to introduce me to new characters, keep them around. Give them a reason to help Han develop as a character.
You can't satisfy these fuckers anyway, though, because like the most risk-taking movie is Last Jedi, and people,
I would say Rogue One,
wanted to hate it. I mean, in a way, no, because Rogue One's prequel, so The Last Jedi like changes a lot.
Yeah, Last Jedi
shit.
is a game changer. Yeah,
and it's fucking with Luke Skywalker, like baby Jesus.
Yeah,
here. Yeah, so you can't satisfy anyone, because a lot of these assholes were online pre-fucking reviewing the movie. Like, I don't know if you've read any of these articles, but there's like Facebook groups and stuff like, we're going to take down this movie.
No, that's so dumb.
Rotten Tomatoes reviews and IMDb reviews. Yeah, it is so dumb. It's stupid. And that's why...
Hate the movie on its own merits.
Yeah.
Which is valid.
Also, maybe let's not make these Rotten Tomatoes scores so sacred. Like, what happened to the old written review or like spoken word review? So when you play it safe, you end up with a safe movie, which I had a decent time. I wasn't bored with Solo. I think I was just so interested to see what the fuck they were going to do with it. And I'm like, oh, they did that. Oh,
I was bored for a lot of it.
And I felt like I had to do a lot of the brain work in this. I had to piece things together. There's a lot of gaps in the story that like... we had to kind of figure out.
So what's your highest high and what's your lowest low in this movie? What was the thing you liked the most? What was the thing you disliked the most?
L3. I like that.
Okay.
L3, and just like I said, the bare bones of the story. I thought they picked the right type of story to tell. They just had the wrong person tell it.
Yeah. I think my highest high is the Kessel Run scene. I thought that was really good. That fucking creature that comes out of nowhere. It's very Lovecraftian, and then it gets sucked into that gravity well, which just call it a black hole. Just call it a fucking black hole. But even still,
you can't.
I liked that scene a lot. It was suspenseful. I liked the the Falcon, like there's that rush to put the coaxium into the fuel line, and you think that it's going to fail, and then at the last second it kicks out and they escape. Like that's movie making 101. That's what that scene should have been. I thought some of the action was decent, and that was a good example of it. My low point is just all the fucking references.
My low point, see the references, I knew they were going to come, so that's not my low point. For me was the Marauder reveal. The Fness Nest, where you find out it's this young lady who is taking the position. Was it her father or mother?
Her mother.
Her mother was killed because it was so sloppily done. I was like, did I miss something? It's like she takes off her mask and it's like dun dun dun, like, oh, these people are humans, and it's led by a young girl, and
not humans, but they were all different.
Yeah, that moment was supposed to mean something more than anything else, and it was like so fucking mishandled, which I don't understand, because that type of scene has been done in movies before. Maybe not by Ron Howard, but
it leaned a little too hard.
It was so frustrating because like this movie could have been awesome, and like that's your Guardians moment where like Han teams up, and some good came out of it because you like it shows you that Han, like, he gets the score, he gets the money, but he looks at like what could be done with this, and instead of like enhancing his personal wealth and making probably more money than he'll ever need in the rest of his life, he does the right thing. So like, it's all there. And to me, like, that's Solo in a nutshell. Is like, it's all right there. Like, how could you fuck this up?
They lean too hard, and I think that scene kind of epitomizes this. They lean too hard into the whole heist movie trope of like alliances changing and people betraying each other, and the good guys, the people you think are the good guys are the bad guys, the bad guys, you know, the good guys. Yeah. They did that with like almost everybody in that third act, and it just became entirely too much. Also, can we talk plot holes for a second? When they're on the ship, right, and Beckett betrays everybody and has Chewie carry the fucking coaxium out. He's like, all right, Chewie, let's go. Like, he holds Chewie at gunpoint. They escape. Then there's that whole fight between Kira, Han, and Dryden Voss. It ends with Dryden being killed and Han leaving, like her telling Han to go leave, go get him, whatever. She betrays him. Beckett had a great head start. How did Solo get ahead of them?
It was like a shortcut. I don't know if he took a vehicle or something.
It was either that or he ran really fast. I was just like, what? How the fuck did he get there ahead of them? I'm going to chalk that up to Han Chewie chemistry. Yeah. I don't know. But it's just when something like that is so glaringly, obviously glanced over and not explained, it just makes me upset.
And again, like, it's so Solo that Beckett throughout the whole movie is like, don't trust Kira, don't trust her. Like, again, they're stopping, they're looking at you, they're like, just remember, she's gonna fuck something up.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man, just fucking do the movie. We're not this stupid.
Oh, and then they even say it at the end where Beckett's like, I told you the whole time not to trust anybody. Yeah, a little on the nose.
There was a lot there. Like, I know we're being negative. I thought just the charisma of the Han and Chewie stuff. There was a lot to like. Where I didn't feel like I wasted a Thursday night. I was like, okay, this is entertaining, and it's a fun movie to talk about. So that's something too.
Yeah,
but I just don't want to give credit because it's not due to the filmmakers. I think cast did a good job. The
script was mostly good. I think what they were given was good, and the stuff that you can tell was obviously from the Lord and Miller script. I don't know, man. It's like about as average as you can get when it comes to a movie. Like, it commits every terrible sci-fi action movie trope sin you can think. But is also watchable enough that for a Saturday afternoon at the movies, I was like, okay, this is fine.
It had potential to be like one of our favorite movies of the year, and I have it. I've watched 33 movies this year. It is number 18 for me.
Of the new ones.
Of 2018 movies. So it's above Best Friends, it's above Super Troopers 2, and Rampage and Tomb Raider. It's kind of in like a tier with them, but I have Unseen, The Ritual, Ready Player One, Den of Thieves, all above it.
It's the best of the worst movies I've watched this year.
Yeah.
I don't have them ranked like you do, but if I had to put it somewhere, like, if we're talking
about... So you agree
movies,
with Tomb Raider, like, it's above that?
Yeah, it's like just above Tomb Raider for me. It'd be, just above that. I would think.
Because there was more to fuck up, so that's why you're frustrated with it. There was more there to ruin.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm also not in love with Star Wars to the point where they can ruin the series or the franchise for me. I just wanted to have a fun movie, and I just did not. I just don't think it was that good, man.
But again, I think it's just wrong people. Like,
Ron Howard, fuck you, fuck you, Ron Howard.
Wow. So we'll end it there. Hey, Ronnie Howard, go to bed.
Oh, we're not going to do our Johnny Knoxville cast?
No, okay, we'll talk about it. Yeah, damn, I wanted to deliver that line.
See, I'm supposed to say it, not you.
Okay, so if
you're going to listen to another episode of Bitching About Movies, listen to our next topical episode, which is going to be, we're going to have a review of the new Johnny Knoxville action point.
Film career of Jonathan Knoxville, auteur, stuntman turned auteur, Jonathan Knoxville, some of his classic films he's been involved in. We got the possibly Dukes of Hazzard.
Directed by J. Chandrasekhar.
Possibly a John Waters movie.
Yeah, John Waters, A Dirty Shame?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about watching that. Obviously, we're going to have to watch some Jackass movies.
Yeah.
So
back when the Farrelly brothers were allowed to make movies, I don't know what happened to them. The Ringer. With Johnny Knoxville.
He's also been with some action stars. He was in Walking Tall with The Rock. He was in The Last Stand with Schwarzenegger. So he's he's co-starred in some big stuff too.
Yeah, he's definitely played off of action heroes. He's the guy that kind of gets beat up or gets abused during the way while the muscle-bound star of the movie just like blazes through.
But if you plan on listening to that, go watch some Johnny Knoxville movies so you can, talk about them with us, experience them with us. Go watch The Ringer for sure, the Jackass movies, and we'll let you know whether or not you should go see Action Point when that comes out in theaters.
Yeah.
And now people can go to bed.
Don't try this at home and
go to bed.
Chewie, Chewbacca, Rip, back in your hole now. Chewbacca, Chewie, Chewbacca, Rip, he's a rabbit. Chewbacca was a Wookiee, and late at night, he Wookiee in your window and he see you sleeping tight. Orlando is a pimp who lives in the sky. He got the Cloud City and they're looking at you now. Chewie's a chimp, he's flying high across the Milky Way and wondering why. Chewie's a chimp, you know he's alright. Chewie's got a cousin, it's a monkey named Clyde. One. This is somebody in here's favoriteest song in the whole wide world. And it goes like this. It's a sing-along. 1 + 1 is 2. 2 + 2 is 4. 4 + 4 is 8. 8 + 8 is 16. 16, 16, 32. 32, 30, 64. 64, 64, 128. I do math in my head. 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 Because 1 + 1 is 2. 2 + 2 is 4. 4 + 4 is 8. 8 + 8 is 16. 16, 16, 32. 32, 34, 64. 64, 64, 128. 128, 236. I do math in my head. I do math in my head. I do math in my head. I do math in my head now. I can add, I subtract, I can multiply. Look out. And ladies, you can add. And fellas, you can multiply. 'Cause you can do math in your head all day long. You can do math in your head. dimes, quarters, quarts, and pennies, meters, and minutes, and everything contained. Because 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus 4 is 8, 8 plus 8 is 16, 16, 16, 32, 30, 34, 64, 64, 64, 128, 128, 236. I do math in my head. I do math in my head. I do math in my head. I do math in my head now. Are you here to fix the sink? Chewbacca, Chewie, Chewbacca. Back in your hole. Back, foul beast. Back into your Millennium Falcon or whatever the hell. Let go of my leg. Chewbacca, Chewbacca. I am talking about Chewbacca, Chewbacca, Chewbacca. I am talking about Chewbacca, Chewbacca, Chewbacca. I am talking about Chewbacca, Chewbacca, Chewbacca. I am All right. Jeez. Oh. Must have drink. Thirsty. Been playing 2.5, 3 hours. Hot. Hot. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out to the deli this evening. I'd like to introduce the band real quick. On the drums, my feet. And that's about the whole band. On the kazoo, Mr. Guff Mortox on kazoo. Thank you very much. And Ghost Man on bass.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.